All right, redo. Here we go.
Hi, welcome to episode 7 of Denied Shifts. I'm Craig, also known as Ripple, and right over there, I'm wrong. I'm so wrong today. It's Chris, also known as Tropical Punch. At least he got his right.
Again. Hi again.
So,
yeah,
we're at the end of the year, dude.
yes, we are heading into the Christmas holiday, New Year's, and then begins anew with a new year of motorsport, baby. We're going to get a whole fresh year in just a few weeks.
We're only 2 weeks out from Christmas, which means we got one episode left until we take our break. But before we start with that, hey, what'd you do this week?
Work. That's my life. It's all about work. Haven't done too much, nothing new. Same old, same old.
Except the fact that you enjoyed the World Championship over here, F1, 4 times.
Oh, God, yeah. My light's freaking out. Yeah, well, this is 3-time because I'm waiting for the hat I ordered off his website. Where's my hat, Max?
Speaking of hat, he has the Amplify gaming hats for now until he gets his Max Verstappen hat.
Oh, this is still going to be my daily driver. This is my daily driver hat. I walk around. This is every day at work. Some guy, one person at work asked me if we were a League of Legends team. I just looked at him and I wanted to laugh.
You know what's funny? We talked about being a League of Legends team at one point. Remember this?
Mm-hmm. He was like, "Oh, is that a League? Is that a League of Legends team?" I was like, "No, we're Overwatch and iRacing." He's like, "Oh, looks like a League of Legends team."
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because League of Legends owns all things that say gaming on it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's okay. He didn't know. I told him, but I wanted to laugh. In my head, I was screaming because I was like, "Really, League of Legends? This is where your head went, man." You could have listed any other game like Marvel Rivals, Overwatch, CSGO. You could have listed anything, even Rocket League, for God's sakes, or Smash Brothers, but League. League.
It's what everybody associates with esports, I guess, still to this day.
Man, I usually, when I think of esports, I actually think of CSGO. Like, that's exactly where my mind goes, is CSGO 2. CSGO 2.
It's the biggest esport and the longest running esport, Counter-Strike.
Yes, it is. Oh, boy. So we're heading into the postseason.
Yep, unless you like hockey, football, or basketball.
I do like hockey, but I don't follow it because I don't want to pay for ESPN. So.
Well, have you noticed some of the games are on Disney Plus now?
Is it? Yeah, but is this the Hulu TV thing?
Is it? Do you have to have that plan to get it? I thought it's if you have Disney Plus, it's just special featured games are on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's the problem. But like, if I want to follow it, I want to follow all the games, not just a special game. I want to see all the games. I want to follow the team through the season.
Speaking of Disney, if you guys know, I'm a fan of Stitch, and I got my Christmas Stitch set on my mic. Little ornament, ready to go. Yeah, and I also have the Disney Stitch jersey on. It's cold in California. It's finally getting cold. So
what's cold to you?
It's compared to Philly, sure.
What's cold?
At night, it's reaching 40 degrees for us.
Those are rookie numbers. You got to get them lower.
I'm also like beach cities, so beach cities don't get that cold compared to some parts of the East Coast that are more foresty.
And we're getting winds right now that are so strong that it blew my grill halfway across the deck. Like a grill. It blew a grill across the deck, and the wheels have the locks on.
Well, thankfully the winds died down for us, and it's helping with the Malibu fire at the same time. So,
sorry, East Coast winds. My bad.
We just had a lot of dry brush that hasn't burned in California, and the grass and the brush, anyways, like it needs to burn here in California, including the trees. Like some of our pines, especially, the seeds don't sprout, or the seeds from the cones, basically, they don't open up until a fire happens. It needs heat for a new tree to grow. So it's a fire is kind of a necessary thing, anyways, with our plant life.
Absolutely. Like Logan Sargent was fired from Williams. Now we're talking about the F1 end of year testing with Carlos Sainz being consistent and fastest in the Williams car so far.
Are you shocked?
No, actually, I'm not. I've just seen the memes of his face because they took pictures of him at, I guess, weird times where his eyes seem to be more open.
Yeah.
And it was like his reaction watching a Ferrari walk his car, knowing that he went from Ferrari to Williams, like it's a bad thing. I'm not surprised he's fast because Alex Albon only looked good because Logan Sargent was not great. So you can make anybody look good when your teammate is garbage.
I'm kind of surprised to see the performance out of Williams, but as we're talking about it, I wonder if Williams has been handicapped because of the drivers they have. If we haven't seen the performance out of it because of the drivers.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it is weird. It's a Mercedes powertrain sitting in the back of the grid.
But I mean, to be fair, Haas moved up. They're using a Ferrari power unit, but I think they'll eventually move to Toyota. But they're using a Ferrari power unit, and they've moved up the grid with better team principle and better strategy, and having the resources from Gazoo Racing at their disposal since they're now like partnered.
Okay, so are we going to start talking about Carlos Sainz and Williams being at the front of the grid now? Are they going to be a spoiler to the top 3 teams? 4, I guess, if you include Mercedes in that.
I would say Williams is a strong contender for being a strong, like one of the top 4 or 5 teams next season because of Carlos. I think we're still going to see. I think with Williams with Carlos now, I think we're going to see a Max and Checo situation where Albon's is going to be used to test. Carlos is going to be all resources, all hands on deck go to him because he's going to be the faster driver. So we may see Williams towards the front this season. Are we going to see
both Williams, though?
Probably not. I think we'll probably see Albon maybe get into the top 10 or at least in the points. But I think you're just going to see I think Williams is going to find out the caliber of driver they brought on versus the caliber of the driver they have had. And they're going to see, holy crap, why? Like, you have Carlos now, and he's leagues better than Alex. So I think we're going to see Williams in the points more next season, but I definitely would say they're in my top 5 teams for next year for decent, or top 5 point scoring teams next year. Because my top 5 is Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Williams, and Haas are my top teams.
You got Haas in there.
I got Haas in there. That says a lot. I got Haas up on that list.
All right. Tell me your enthusiasm for Haas going into next year.
The way that team principal's literally just turned, like in one season, he has literally flipped the script on the team and how it functions. And the fact that they have towards the middle, they actually scored points, a decent amount too. So I am excited to see with whatever data they've gathered from this season, with the direction from that team principal, I want to see where they're going to go next year with, Toyota or Gazoo Racing, now an established partner, what they're going to do when they can start from the beginning. Not like a middle of the season partnership. Now they're starting from the very beginning. So I'm actually eager to see. I think we're going to see Haas towards the front next season. In all honesty, with the way that the team has been running, I think we might see them towards the front. We even may see Ocon up there. So,
well, speaking of Ocon wasn't fastest during testing. He was the fastest of the Haas car. So I think you're right in your assumption with Haas and expectations. Also, I think the who's going to really push the needle for them is going to be Ocon. I know Ocon gets a lot of flack for his penalties and the way he races
I just
sometimes.
think it's still funny. I feel like at this point the community does it just because it's just Ocon's thing. It's Ocon's thing. 10-second penalty for Ocon, no matter what.
It really is. It's just an Ocon thing.
No, but yeah, I definitely think Ocon will be like the Carlos Sainz. Like Ocon's going to be for Haas what Carlos Sainz is for Williams. That's what I think it's going to be for this year, because now you're putting Ocon in a Haas that's running a Ferrari power unit.
What's your thoughts on that second driver for Red Bull?
Then, in my opinion, the season's going to be a toss. And I don't think Red Bull's going to win the World Championship next year. If they do, once again, it'll be on the back of Max. If they do, it'll just be because Max is just built different. Honestly, I feel like Max might push for a championship next year only because him and he's going to have a baby with his girlfriend.
You have 3 different drivers they have to choose from. I mean, if you include the 4th driver, their development, Isak Hajar, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but
I think Checo's done. He will start next season, but I think he will. I predict he won't finish it.
You think there'll be a start still?
Just to stay within contract, he'll be in this next season. He'll start next season, and they'll have a reason. At least if they meet his contract to a degree, it'll be easier to mid-season or whenever during the season to remove him from the seat.
Because it sounds like they're willing to pay the exit clause now.
I mean, yeah, they have the money. Well, Red Bull as an organization has the money to pay that exit clause. It doesn't matter. They don't even have to use constructors' money. They can just go, Red Bull as an organization is now just going to buy him out of his contract and be like, you're done.
Because he's not going to go. He's not going to go back to VCarb. He doesn't want to go back to VCarb.
No. I don't know where he'll go, but I have a feeling we may be seeing the end of Sergio Perez at Red Bull. And I honestly think they're probably going to throw Yuki as the second seat.
I have my thoughts about that because Yuki didn't show up during the times are down there. He was 17th in testing. The rookie driver, or basically the F2 driver, was faster than him on times. But I mean, Liam Lawson also didn't. He really didn't show himself either that well.
Well, maybe as testing continues, it'll be more clear who Red Bull will lean to put in the second seat, whether it be the F2 driver or Yuki or Liam.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I just think at this point, I've heard too much. I've heard the rumor mill churning and burning on Twitter about, this could be the end of basically Sergio Perez on Red Bull because they're over it.
Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. Excited? Kind of
I don't really care. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't follow Lewis Hamilton. Not a fan of his. I don't care where he goes. I just wish they got. It's gonna be hot. I really wish they kept Carlos Sainz on Ferrari and moved Leclerc somewhere else.
I think that's what we all thought or wished.
Yeah. So I honestly think that Ferrari is going to be having a meltdown next year because I don't know if you saw the clip that's been circulating the internet about after the last race in Abu Dhabi. Leclerc, when Lewis Hamilton went up to Leclerc to give him like a high five or whatever, like, hey, whatever, woo. The face Leclerc made.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, there's going to be problems next year. I think there's going to be internal team issues.
I don't know if he'll go that far, but
Leclerc thinks he's the star, but now they're bringing on 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. So it's kind of like pride and egos are going to be.
Yeah, and I don't. It's tough to say because, I don't think Leclerc is the answer for Ferrari, anyways.
I don't think. I think Carlos was the answer.
Yeah, and I don't know how. I'm excited for Lewis Hamilton to be in the Ferrari red finally, but at the same time, I'm also looking at this it might be one of those dull seasons for him too, because not only he's adjusting to a car at an older age as well, so it's going to take him a little bit longer time. Like he's already on his way out, basically, when it comes to Formula One. If anything, I think
he
he'll
just
perform
wants
better.
to retire. He wants to retire at Ferrari.
And if he does anything, I think he'll perform better in sports cars than he would at Formula One. It's just
I feel like most of the Formula One drivers would do better in sports car. It's just
obviously.
Yeah. We all know that they would do so much better. Fernando did make a comment about his tenure at Formula One. He does think that 2026 this year might be the last season, but he is still open to staying in Formula One.
He's open to that 12th team, basically what it sounds like. So
yeah, baby.
We'll see. And like the 2026 regulations hit, so we got to see the new car, the mock-up of it, or basically a new preview. It's smaller, which I am thankful that FIA and Formula One are going that direction, making the car smaller than what it is now. Because now it's too big. It's a boat. Like they want to keep Monaco on the schedule. You better make those cars small again.
Well, they extended the contract, so what choice do they have? Make the car smaller.
Yeah, and if they want to go to other places in the world, other racetracks, or have new street courses, they need to make the car smaller. These cars are too big for most of these street courses.
I don't know. It's like watching Royal Caribbean. It's like watching two different versions of Royal Caribbean cruises and Norwegian cruise liners race each other down the street.
All right, let me ask you this: what do you think about the new? Did you see the new 2025 F1 schedule for next year?
I have not seen the new schedule.
Okay,
I can look that up.
I'm going to tell you right now. They are going to Australia first, China second, Japan third, and then we go to Middle East with Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Thoughts about opening the season up in Australia, which actually is kind of cool because I remember growing up, I think it was like during the 2000s, that was like the hype was Australia opening up Formula One season every year.
Ooh, I'm looking at the schedule now. Hello.
You just made yourself really bright on screen too.
Well, it's because the F1's website is white. It's a white background, so it makes me even brighter.
Formula One doesn't believe in dark mode.
I still think it's. I mean, I understand Abu Dhabi is Yas Marina is the end of the season. I like how it starts. Okay, so geographically, this pleases me because if you think about it,
it's Pacific Ocean
bright
region.
On this side now. Yeah, I'm going to be bright on this side now because I moved it over to my other monitor. So we have Australia, China, Japan, all pretty much relatively close to each other. So they're going. It feels like they're going in order, like from Australia, and they're working their way across to the U.S.
Yeah, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia is still Asia. They're just West Asia, but
yeah. No, it tickles my brain for having things in order. It's not just you're going zigzag. There's an order to the flow of where this is going to be. The only thing.
Well, okay. What about
when you get to October? That's when you lose me. Well, when you get to Singapore.
What is your thoughts on Italy being like, we don't go to Europe until the 6th race of the season, which is all the way in May.
Yeah, but there's another European race, Monza, September.
I know that, but what's your thoughts on we're not going to Europe till that later in the year in the Formula One calendar? We're basically in Asia for most of it. Then we go to USA, go to Miami, basically skip all of Europe, cross the pond, and then we're going to go back across the pond. And we'll finally start to go to Europe. You like that? That we go to Europe in the summer?
I don't really have an opinion on where. I just like the fact that they're just going this way and then they're going to go back.
This is my oddball for it. And actually, like even then, like you mentioned, Singapore, they lose you. I'm already lost by the time we go by that USA race, that Italy's the 7th race, the 6th race USA. We go to Miami. It's all by itself. Then we go 1, 2, 3 Europe, and then we come back to Canada, and then we go back to Europe again, Austria, Silverstone, and Spa.
Monaco, Spain, Canada, then back to Austria, United Kingdom, Belgium, Hungary, Netherlands.
And then I guess you add Hungary, Netherlands, and then Italy again. Like, yeah, we're in Europe.
But then you go back to Azerbaijan, but then you go back to Asia, to Singapore, then you go back to the US.
Azerbaijan is still Asia, so it's 2 races in Asia, back to the US.
Right, but you're going from Canada, so you're going from Australia, Asia, Middle East, US, back to Europe, then back to Canada, then back to Europe.
I still don't like this schedule here where you split up, where Brazil splits up Mexico and Las Vegas race. Besides the fact we're back to this. We're taking another week break between Brazil and Las Vegas. And then it's 3 weeks in a row from Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi to finish off the season. And we're finishing in December again. But like, you're right. Like, this is where like this middle of the season, like it just doesn't, the scheduling doesn't make sense to me.
The beginning of it, I actually like the beginning. It's when you get to that middle end, you start to lose me. That's where I'm just like, why?
We also have a break between Hungary and the Netherlands race, the Zandvoort race.
Yeah, summer break. How much time do they like that? Gosh, and they want to add more races. This 1, 2. That's 24 races next season. My lord.
By the way, wasn't Monaco supposed to be off the Memorial Day weekend schedule, or is that starting the year after?
Might be the year after. I'm going to double check though.
Because they are on the Memorial weekend in this calendar, May 23rd through 25th. I wonder if that's part of the contract extension. They changed the date.
Monaco 2026 confirmed. They changed the date for 2026. So yeah, right. So 2025 is going to be the last year that they do it on that weekend. And starting 2026, when the new regulations drop, then they're going to move it to Friday, June 5th, 6th, and 7th.
It'll be the last, which I'll be curious to see in the 2026 calendar if they move another race to that date and add it as part of the triple header.
Well, if they intend to add more races to the calendar, then because Monaco's now moved off that weekend, I feel like whatever they add will be put there.
It's probably going to be, looking at this calendar, if we use this one as the barometer, it's probably going to be Imola or Barcelona.
I wouldn't mind Barcelona. Yeah, smaller car. Drivers are doing other things. The testing has begun. The drivers have swapped their teams and have begun testing with their new teams. I don't know. I feel like 2025 is going to be... I think we're going to see, like I said, we're going to see surprises where we might see Williams more towards the front now that they have Carlos. You're probably going to see Haas more consistently up front, since they really did consistently stay within the points midfield at the end, at the latter half of this past season. Red Bull, I don't know if we're really going to see them do much this year. If they do something, it's literally because I feel like Max is going to want to retire sooner than later to spend time and raise the kid, because he did say in an interview that he does want to be with the family and be with the kids. He wants more time to be able to do that. So I predict,
and he's got a baby on the way,
right? So. And that's why he wants to have more time with them, because if you think about it, right, she's showing now, like she's showing pregnancy. She has a baby.
Yep.
And if you think about how long an F1 season is, she's going to have that baby at some point during the season next year.
Yep.
So I think it's just a prediction, and I heard it from a few other people talking about it, and I do agree that we may see Max retire from F1 early to spend the time with the family, to raise the kids. I don't blame him.
I don't blame him.
And he even might get married. I feel like he's going to get married.
Finally.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to get married. But
okay, I'm gonna go back to Haas, because you've been mentioning about them hyping them up. It's a totally new lineup, basically. And speaking within racing news, Magnussen is not with Haas anymore. Obviously, he's now with BMW, racing in their WEC program. He's gonna be full time as their prototype driver. Like, there is a ton of shakeup because of the Formula One shakeup that shook up the rest of sports car racing as well.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be real interesting.
Also, like, I mentioned this to you earlier because I saw it yesterday. BMW announced that all their drivers, except for 2, are going to be competing in both IMSA and WEC. They're going to be double duty full time for their prototype driver, all their BMW prototype drivers.
I'm surprised they haven't done it sooner.
Is it even possible because of the overlapping calendar between WEC and IMSA?
Oh, you mean the drivers? Not that they're going to have field multiple cars.
No, like
I was under the impression. Oh, I misunderstood what you said. All right, never mind. I misunderstood the assignment. I thought that they
that's why you
were
took it so
adding.
light.
I thought they were just adding cars, and I was like, well, what's the problem? It's a German manufacturer, and they're going to be in Europe and in the US. Like, I don't see the problem. And then you're like, no, it's just a drive. Okay. Good luck. All I have to say is good luck.
Mhm.
Either their drivers have a lot of free time on their hands and they can jump in between the schedules. I mean, it might work. If you think about it, it might work because WEC has a long break in between each race. And in between each of their races, there's like, depending on what the IMSA calendar looks like, there's maybe like 1 or 2 races for IMSA in between before they would have to go to the WEC to race.
But I feel like that's rare when that happens. Like the only time I know that it's feasible more so is Daytona of 24, Le Mans 24, end of the season for IMSA as well. Like I think the last 2 or 3 races doesn't conflict with. I just think it's interesting that they went that route. That hey, we're putting our drivers to the test there.
Oh, that's not putting your drivers to the test. That's I would say it's.
Logistics.
I would say
it's gonna be something.
It's insanity. I mean, if this is what they're doing, if this is their approach, where they're going to put both their drivers in both racing formats next season, they have a plan to execute it. Because I don't think any team in their right mind would suggest doing this without actually having a plan.
Yep.
So they have to have something.
Oh, here we go. So it's going to be Robin Frigens, Kevin Magnussen, Rafael Marciello, Renee Ras, Sheldon Van der Linde, and Andreas Van Dor that are going to be doing both IMSA and WEC, while Philip Eng and Marco Whitman are going to be doing only IMSA.
BMW obviously has a plan. They know better than I do what's going to happen, so I trust their judgment.
Let them do. That scheduling is interesting to me.
It is interesting, but listen, BMW said this is L plan, and they have something in their head that they thought was good. If it works out in practice, hey, shit, I ain't gonna say good on you, BMW. You planned it out. But if it fails, it's going to fail historically. If it fails, it's going to fail epically.
How do you think BMW is going to do in IMSA after how they performed last year?
I think they're actually going to do pretty good this next year.
Going to Daytona.
Yeah, this year going into Daytona. I think they're actually going to do better. Well,
kind of
next year. I'll see you next year.
we don't know what year it is yet.
Yeah, the dad joke on New Year's Eve. See you next year tomorrow. I saw you last year. Oh, God. I think going into Daytona, they're actually going to be very competitive.
2 cars. Porsche has 4. Cadillac has 3.
Mm-hmm.
Lamborghini's going to drop 1, and Acura's going to have 2.
I thought Lamborghini pulled out entirely, or did they only pull out of the WEC?
Because WEC's new rules state that you have to have 2 cars.
And they said, "Oh, hell!"
And they're like, "Nope, that's too much money for us, and especially in where we're developing our car right now." So they're committed to IMSA.
Yes, IMSA for the win. All right, IMSA keeps Lamborghini,
and we're getting Aston Martin,
the Valkyrie. Yep, we are getting the Valkyrie. How many Valkyries? Is it just one?
I think it's just one. We'll know come Sebring because they're not entering them into Daytona like we were hoping they would.
Oh,
it's not going to be ready for Daytona. It sounds like 61 cars for the grid this year.
Damn. It's going to be crowded. That track's going to be crowded.
Yeah.
Damn. It's going to make for some good racing because there's going to be a lot more traffic.
The GTD class is huge. Mm-hmm. Like GTD Pro is already a big grid, but just regular GTD Pro-Am. Oh my gosh. Like for their graphic, they had to have 2 pages for it for GTD Pro-Am. That's how many cars are entering that class.
Not a surprise considering how many manufacturers have jumped on board for the hypercar or the prototype programs, And now after seeing like the growth in sports car, I just feel like manufacturers are just more enthusiastic about participating in these series now. So they're just going to start putting their cars out on the track more, which then means there's more teams that can get these cars that can then race for these manufacturers. I just think the overall hype and growth of sports car racing since the, I would say, current generation of prototypes has just sparked an excitement for this format of racing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like booming. Because I remember when I kind of got turned on to sports car racing, the grid was a lot smaller in IMSA. And then over the last year or so, I've watched it grow, and it's still growing, and it's awesome. So I think we're in for a treat next year with the more competition, more cars, the prototype class is expanding.
So is GTD class is expanding. I mean, there's 3 Corvettes next year.
And I think they're switching to the ZR1 program too. They're leaving the Z06 for the ZR1 program. They should be.
Still Z06, GT3.
Why haven't they switched?
That's because they just homologated the Z06. So they haven't switched over.
Average GM move right there, baby.
3 in GT Pro, and then in GTD, let's see. I see 1 Corvette. Is there a second one? No,
because Pratt Miller had 2, but now Pratt Miller moved to LMP2.
They still have 2. Funny enough,
you do.
They're still running 2 Pro class Corvettes. The number 3, number 4. Trackhouse by TF Sport. Trackhouse, who's their NASCAR team and a MotoGP team as well. Actually, they teamed up with TF Sport to run a Corvette in the GTD Pro. And then there's AWA, which is also running a Corvette in GTD Pro-Am. So there'll be 4 Corvettes out on the track, which that will be, to me, feels new because you never see that many Corvettes out in the field of any sports car race. It's rare for Corvette to do customer programs in the first place.
Damn, 4 Corvettes, 3 Cadillacs. It's a lot of GM out there.
There's a ton of freaking Ferraris out there next year. Porsche, of course, will fill up the field. Mercedes, there's plenty of Mercedes. BMW. There are more. I feel Aston Martin has added more cars to the field as well. Definitely more Lamborghinis. And I think a lot of the Lamborghinis are teams that have had to switch over from the Audi program over to Lamborghini because it's still within the VW wheelhouse. If not, they switch to Porsche because it's still under VW as well. So
I would have switched to Porsche if I was a team owner. I'd be like, nah, let's go to Porsche. Nah, let's just go to Porsche.
There'll be 3 Mustangs on the field. 2 different classes, but yeah.
Yeah, 3 Mustangs. But and then because I was like, they have one in the WEC, and I know they should have 2 at least in IMSA.
Yeah, so they're gonna have 3 in IMSA next year.
They'll have 4. I think they have 4 at Le Mans next year.
And they're running the new Ford Mustang Dark Horse GT3, so maybe they finally turn things around. We'll see. I mean, the car looks nice at the LA Car Show. Like it looked like they made some massive improvements to it. They've changed their aerodynamics on it. So let's hope they finally fix their issues and we have another American making a challenge up there.
So if you think about it, though, you have however many Corvettes are the WEC, plus the 4 from IMSA. You'll have 4 Mustangs, or you'll have 4 to 5 Mustangs at Le Mans. You'll have 5 Cadillacs at Le Mans this year. That's a lot of American representation there. That's huge.
I'm actually curious to hear what the invite numbers is going to be like to Le Mans to IMSA teams. Because the grid hasn't been set for Le Mans yet either, so I don't think they announced that until March.
Expanded in IMSA, so yeah, no. Well, I mean, they have to make room. They have to make.
There's only so many garage spots though, so it's limited in Le Mans.
I wonder if they're going to do it as in however many points in each class, like the higher scoring points in each class get to go. That's how I would do it. Like for Hyper, LMP2, GTD Pro and Pro, GTD Pro and GTD. I feel like whoever are the class in those classes, whoever the leaders are, I don't know what place they would decide this get to go to Le Mans. They get to go to Le Mans because then you're going to have the top racers from each of those classes from IMSA go to Le Mans to compete.
Yeah, I forget how that works.
Yeah.
I know invites are sent to IMSA because obviously all WEC teams are entered into Le Mans.
By default, because
and then the remaining spaces are invites to the IMSA teams to come over and travel, and race in it as well. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know what the invites, how many prototype cars they're going to invite, and how many GT3 cars they'll invite this year. We haven't seen that number yet because I don't think we'll know till March. I really, maybe April at the latest, but I'm pretty certain it's March is when we start seeing all the info towards Le Mans. A lot of the contribution, though, with the hype to sports car, I have to say, also comes from the growing, or basically the boom in iRacing as well. It's only natural because iRacing caters to a lot more sports car racing with options. And so obviously it was going to create more fans. And speaking of iRacing, like they just had their massive update as well. New tire model finally dropped, which I'm hoping fixes all the things we complain about with tires and how they don't fall off properly, or there's just we don't get the same consistent feel that we with tires in iRacing that we do in real life. And I get it. The physics and the math behind it is complicated. It is tricky. There's a crazy science to it behind it. And at the same time, it's inconsistent because it's really hard to match real life changes. Yeah, conditions when it comes to rubber, especially.
Yep. I feel like they can get as close as they can, as close as possible, but because there's so many variables of condition, I feel like there's just like a lot of if this, well, what if this, well, what if that?
Yeah.
And I feel like they can only do so much, or they can only hit so many. Well, what if it was like this? Okay. Well, what if it's like this? Okay. I feel like they're going to miss a few things, which won't please everybody. But if they can get it close, that would be better.
I feel like it would do a better job in helping drivers to be able to tire management, because you can't tire manage as much. Like, especially like, let's say you lock up one of your tires going into the corner. Well, the tire stays hot the whole time, the temperature on it, and you can never cool the tire down, or it takes way too long. Versus like in the new tire model, at least like you could cool that tire down. You could manage your tire again.
I've noticed that it takes longer for certain tires to heat up from what I've been driving. Like the hypercars feel good, where they feel grippy out of the pit lane. They feel pretty grippy. Like after one lap, they feel a little bit better. But I noticed that the cool lights, because on the wheel they have the tire pressures highlighted with a blue box or green box, letting you know,
yep.
Okay, well, your tire's still cold. And then once that goes away, your tire's in the temperature window. It does take longer for those to go away.
Which is consistent with what happens with prototype cars, especially in real life. Like,
I've noticed that it does take longer for those boxes to go away. And then there's like usually even in the middle of the race, there's only like 2 tires that are at 10.
I mean,
and the other 2 are still warming.
For IMSA at Daytona, it usually takes them like 3-4 laps for the tires actually warm up.
Yep.
It takes a long time for prototype cars to warm up tires. And I think that's what they want to get to versus like what we had before. You could warm those puppies up in like half a lap to a lap, and you're good to go the rest of the race. They stay grippy the whole race. So there's
about one lap to be safe. One lap.
There's no tire management happening.
Yeah. They're just, oh, cool. I'll be grippy after one full lap. Best case scenario, you get it on half a lap. Worst case scenario, oh boy, when I cross the finish line from the out lap, my tires are in the window. I'm good.
Yeah, it's like slot cars at that point.
Yeah, and GT3 sitting there struggling 3 laps in going, I'm just getting there. So now you have a
we
car.
could go longer on our pit stops, or in between pit stops. We have longer fuel loads.
Yeah. Also, I think the tires on GT3 are easier to manage than the hybrid.
It's a heavier car. Freaking.
Yeah, it's a boat.
The weight of the car squishes the tire down to the ground, which you want anyways to generate
maximum
heat and to generate
grippage.
Yeah, you can, like you want that weight where hypercars just too light sometimes, or a hypercar, GTP car. I mean, speaking of hypercar, the freaking Ferrari got added, the WEC Ferrari.
Car's broken. Everyone bought it just because it's something that they really wanted, and it doesn't really fit into iRacing because I've driven the Cadillac against it in practice sessions, and I've driven the Porsche 963 against it in practice sessions. And I will tell you right now that from my experiences in the lobbies I have been in, that Cadillac cannot keep pace with that Ferrari. Without a BOP, the Cadillac can't touch it. And the only car that I own that can keep up is the Porsche.
And we see that in WEC anyways. Like Cadillac has never been able to keep up with Ferrari and Porsche and Toyota in the first place. Ferrari does have the in iRacing has the ABS as well that IMSA doesn't run. So that's I'm pretty certain the Ferrari's not going to be eligible for IMSA races.
That's what's being speculated, that it's only going to be eligible for the global endurance series.
Yeah.
That's what's being speculated because there's a lot of drivers that are in the races that in the chat boxes, I've been reading their chats saying, oh, so the Ferrari has ABS. Well, I'd rather have everyone have ABS or no one have it because it's the only hypercar in iRacing, or the only prototype hypercar in iRacing that has the feature of ABS, and you don't see that feature unless you're in GT3.
Yep.
So it's like all the other cars, you have to really be very, very conscious on your braking, or it's an instant lockup. Versus ABS, you can just mash that and be like, cool, I can push this as hard as I want until it locks, but it won't lock because it's the anti-lock braking system. So those cars have way better braking versus every other GTP prototype car in the same class. I don't care about this naming nomenclature crap. I'm going to just put them all as GTP just for reference. All the other ones that are in IMSA, Porsche, Cadillac, BMW, Acura, none of them have ABS. So you have to be far more conscious on your braking. I'm watching Ferrari drivers just send it, brake super late and send it through a turn versus I'm driving a Cadillac. Well, I have to start braking at a different time because if I do what they do, I insta-lock and I'm off the track. I'm done. So it's BS that it's just such BS. Unless they BOP and they just go, by the way, we've just removed your ABS because balance of power. Take that.
I mean, I am excited about Ferrari coming in because maybe they'll start adding more of the WEC cars. Like we'll finally see Toyota and other cars in.
I mean, they have WEC tracks.
Yeah. I mean, yes, WEC has their own game, but again, it's by the defunct company that even NASCAR and IndyCar pulled out of.
Well, then you have to think about it like this. If we'll say iRacing gets some WEC stuff, right? That means they would have to find a way to add whatever the rules are for
WEC
and apply it to the IMSA cars that they currently have that are.
You might see, okay, I'm going to race the Cadillac, but what version of the Cadillac am I going to race? Oh, this is a WEC, so it's going to add the WEC stuff. Like, it's basically like you know how like there's different layouts of the, like when you go to the tracks, there's different layouts to choose from. Oh, we're going to choose this car, but it's going to be different layouts of that car, basically.
Now, here's the thing. Then this would be my next question. If this was the route that they would take, and they would say, hey, you're going to be able to select WEC or IMSA format of this particular prototype. Well, here's my question. Do I have to buy another prototype, or are they going to do it like the Super Formula car, where when you buy the Super Formula car, you can either pick Honda or Toyota?
I think it's going to be similar to Super Formula because they already do this with the mini stocks and the others. What is it? other dirt racing, or not dirt racing, but all the midgets and wing midgets and such, where like you buy the one car and you choose between, well, you don't really get to choose because it depends on the track, but the car is configured either for dirt or asphalt. And I think that's what's gonna happen. You get the one car, but it gets configured basically according to what series you're running.
Yeah,
the rule set.
it is. But then that means Ferrari can only be used in one series unless it's the global.
Unless you do a mix thing.
Because then you
challenge.
You can't be like, yes, I'm going to do the IMSA Open series and I'm going to race the Ferrari with IMSA rules. That's because there is no Ferrari with IMSA rules.
I will say the Ferrari's been kind of consistent with this tire warming, because everybody I've watched on stream has said the same thing. The Ferrari, especially the first day, dude, everybody trying to send it with the Ferrari and it just had no grip and they're just crashing straight into the wall. The Ferrari tires take so long to warm up. That's consistent. I don't know if that was part of the tire model thing or just the case of the WEC cars. They do take longer to warm up their tires.
I think it's the tire model, because I think that's like they released a bunch of patches and I think the tire model was in that patch when they dropped the car.
Which makes sense, but at least like that's consistent. Like it does take longer for the tires to warm up. The Ferrari historically, and even WC, has taken longer to warm up their tires compared to the other manufacturers anyways. They're a great long run car. I remember I was watching YouTube and this guy made a video about how the new tire model is gonna break the iRacing community and you're gonna see people leave iRacing. And I was like, that's the worst take ever that I've ever heard. Because
I've not heard that take.
Because if you're saying like, oh yeah, everybody's gonna leave because of the tire model, because they're used to video games where like you learn to drive it or use it a certain way. Like let's use Overwatch for instance. You use a hero a certain way, and if they make a change to the hero, now I got to relearn how to play this hero. Now I don't want to do this. Like no, that's the typical casual gamer mentality. And most, I'm speaking from experience with the Overwatch players because we also have an Overwatch team. The meta's constantly changing, so yes, they have to adapt and change. And in racing, that is constantly happening, even in real life. Because the tires are constantly getting changed. There's some sort of mechanics is constantly changing. Your environment at the track is constantly changing. The tracks are changing as well because the asphalt doesn't stay the same. It gets weathered, it gets beaten, it gets worn down from cars racing over it as well, and the weather wearing it down. So that's just if it's a simulator, that's part of it. If you wanted to do something where like, okay, like it's not going to change. Like you learned how to race this and it's going to be the same way every time. Well, then play a freaking racing arcade game like freaking Forza or Gran Turismo, because
the Formula One EA games.
All right,
I haven't heard this. I haven't heard this complaint, but I think if this is the attitude from the more casual iRacers that this is going to cause a lot of people to leave, it's going to cause a lot of casuals to leave.
And if anything, there's on iRacing, in my experience, there's not a lot of casuals. There's more people that are more race savvy or want to, they're casual in a sense too, but they want the immersion experience.
They want that realism. Yeah, they want that simulated realism experience,
which is what iRacing is.
Yeah. So if people do leave, and I know like, what about community? If that's going to be the attitude of some drivers, I'm not going to say all, because I feel like a lot of people were like, okay, cool. So it's even more realistic. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. If the attitude for certain drivers is, I just want to hop in a car and drive it the same way every single time, I don't know why you subscribed to iRacing, because that's not what this platform is.
Exactly. It's a live service that's constantly changing.
Right. So it's like if you knew subscribing that this was a live service and ever changing, always being developed, always being updated with what's current, if you knew this, why did you subscribe expecting it to be like Forza or Need for Speed or Formula One 2023, 2024, whatever year? So why did you expect that?
If you want to enjoy racing as well, and you want to call yourself like, or not even call yourself a racer, but you just want to enjoy racing and be a fan, you also should know this. Like it's expected that even in racing, Everything is changing. You're constantly
Right.
professional drivers are constantly relearning their car.
Yeah. It's never, I drove this car, so now I know everything about it forever. And it's always going to be this way.
And even during a race, every lap is different. Your first lap is not the same as your second lap, and your second lap is definitely not the same as your 20th or 50th lap.
Well, then, I mean, even look at
the
it
reality
like this.
of racing.
Yeah, but even look at setups too. People who make setups and sell them to people that want to buy into like setups that are like tested every week for new series, they're never the same.
And at the same
unless
time,
you're VRS.
That setup never should stay the same throughout the race. You're supposed to be adjusting on it. That setup is only a base setup to help you get okay, let's get closer to the rate to what it's going to be. And even then, you're not going to start the race on that setup. You should be going into practice with that setup and being like, okay, let me tweak this setup a little bit, and then you go into the race.
They give you a start with all the stuff saying this is what they say they recommend you start with. But as that race goes on, that traction control, that brake bias, that throttle mapping, all of those micro controls that I have at the wheel change.
Your wing, your spring rates, your track bars, any other suspension adjustments, that all is going to change.
So yeah, I haven't heard this, but
it changes from practice to qualifying to the beginning of the race too. So I don't get people sometimes.
I don't know. I've not heard that, but that frustrates me to hear that people have that mentality of.
I feel like this video was more like a clickbaity video.
That's what it sounds like. But I mean, but if this is the sentiment of some of the community, I would urge them to give it a chance and, just maybe change their perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is going to be, if they don't give it a chance and they're just hell bent on crying about it, then I don't think iRacing is for them. And I would politely ask them to just unsubscribe from the service politely, because if you're going to go into the tire model changes and these constant changes with a piss poor attitude, then the platform was never meant for you.
Yeah, the video was it was on YouTube. It's 2025's new tire model. What's the whole title? Whoops, that's gonna be loud. It is 2025's new tire model could be a hard pill for iRacers to swallow, and it was by Gamer Muscle Videos. I just don't agree with this guy's take on it.
I love how he generalizes that everyone's going to agree with this. Yeah, because he says iRacers. That implies me, you. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
This has to be the worst take. His whole video had to have been the worst take I ever heard as well when it comes to it. It just felt like, let me find a reason to complain about iRacing.
I mean, like I said, and he can have an opinion. Everyone can have an opinion about something. He's free to speak his mind. But it's just
I have an opinion about his opinion.
I have an opinion about his opinion. I don't agree with it, and I think if he's going to have a piss poor attitude about it, then maybe the service just isn't for him. That's just all I have to say. And I'm not trying to be mean. I don't want to sound like I'm bullying him, but I just feel that with all the hours I've put into iRacing over a year and a half, all the hours I've put in, and with all the changes and things I've seen going, all these changes that happen every race, every update, something happens, the car changes its feeling, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've never been like, oh, well, they updated the Porsche and now it doesn't feel the same as it did last month, so I'm just done with iRacing, I guess.
Yeah, no, I've never done that either. It's all right, cool. I got to relearn this car now. It's more difficult, maybe, or maybe something's easier. And all right, now I changed my driving style, which is to me that's fun because I'm never bored while racing or driving a car.
Yeah, would you rather play the same thing over and over and over again that has no change, or would you rather play something or do something that changes where now it's going to challenge you versus always be the same challenge? I like this on normal mode. It's always going to be normal. Nah, I like the dynamic flow of, a new challenge. Let me try to tackle it and figure it out.
That's why meta changes is a thing in video games. Why do you think they constantly balance heroes?
Mm-hmm.
That's our balance in racing. There's changes and updates and things that change. Like in this sense, this is one of those situations where the tire model gets closer to real life and helps us with those constant changes where okay, now we have something to challenge us throughout the race and we don't get bored just driving around.
And now it feels even more real because now there's more tire management. We see real life racing, they manage their tires. Now we get to experience tire management, which actually makes doing better even more rewarding, because the better, if you do good in a race because you manage your tires, it's like, I did this, raced, did everything I was supposed to do. It adds that more gratifying of when you're successful, when you do well and you do with all these other changes, it's more gratifying. It's like, yes, this feels good. It wasn't handed to me. I earned this. This was earned. This is awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, that's an L take.
It was a really bad take for me too. And I was like, I mean, I have to. It was one of those things where I'm like, I have to mention and talk about this because, like, there's no way people are looking and thinking about it this way. If they are, sorry guys. Like, you can fight me in the comments in this video below or on Twitter. Like,
fight me all you want, but I honestly don't think a majority of more of the dedicated enthusiast sim racers who use iRacing to get that one-to-one experience without being in the car, I don't think they're going to agree with you on this. In fact, I think they're going to be like, well, isn't that the point of a simulator?
Yeah, you want to go from the simulator to real life, and you want to have that same consistent feeling, and changing the tire model so that we could have that, because right now we don't have that. You go from the simulator, everything else is fine except for the tire model, and then you go to a real life car and you don't get that same consistent feeling with the tires. Like, now you're having to learn, oh shoot, these tires do something compared to what I was feeling in a sim. Like, that's the issue we've been having, and now that iRacing's trying to adjust and fix that, like, it makes the feel like that was my complaint when it comes to iRacing, because I came from go-kart racing and just driving cars in general, like at high speeds. But, like, you know, coming from actual racing in real life and going to the sim, other than the fact that I don't have the feeling of feeling my race car through my entire body to tell what my tires are doing. My tires just don't feel like they do what they should be doing compared to what I could do in even a go-kart out on the racetrack, right? And so, like, I like the direction iRacing did. Yes, it's going to be an uphill challenge and battle. Not everybody's going to enjoy it at first, but I think they're on the right track to fixing the complaints we have with tire models and such. And I'm sure Pirelli and Goodyear want this as well, because they could give us as much data as they can, but it hasn't been showing consistency with with their basically data that they're showing us as well. So this is a good thing for everybody in general. Amplify, our Overwatch team, speaking of, we were talking about Overwatch just recently. We just finished up our third season and FACEIT League for the expert division. We unfortunately didn't make grand finals. We finished third in the season, which is not something to necessarily be disappointed about either. Like, this roster did amazing as well. We came through some difficulty in the middle of the season. They worked hard. They fought their way through everything, and I mean, it's a well-deserved third place. And I still think this roster is going to go somewhere as well. Like, they are all young players. It's definitely still developing themselves. And they're just like, I feel like they're just that close to being on the cusp of just breaking through and being some of the top players and top teams in Overwatch in general. But great season for them. We did lose 0-3 to Nightmare Rotation. Nightmare Rotation does have an amazing roster, especially when you have Matt Merck on a tank, and Matt, who's a former Amplify player as well, was doing Matt Merck stuff as usual. Like, his flexibility on tanks and ability to just make plays showed up again with the Nightmare Rotation and with this match against us. We've seen it as he played for Amplify before. We've seen it ourselves firsthand. So it was kind of not a surprise and kind of expectation from him to be able to perform it that well. So Nightmare Rotation will go to grand finals on the 14th, I believe, is their match against Alt Spartans. Both teams are qualified instantly for the Masters division. I think we have play-ins. We haven't heard dates and how many ups and downs they're doing in regulation, but I'm pretty certain we qualified for play-ins for Master division. So we just have that to look forward to. And then looking forward to 2025, which speaking of which, one more episode. We said in the beginning, one more episode before we go on winter break. Next week is the last week. We will have Maverick on the show next week, a special guest for us. We're going to be able to get to sit down and talk with him. Maverick is the founder and owner of Latency Playchart, who also sponsors our team, and is the owner for Frost Esports, who hosts they're going to be hosting now Marvel Rivals. They also host, oh my gosh, what is that fighter game with Warner Brothers?
Versus something versus
Multiverse.
Multiverses, that's it.
Yeah, Multiverses. They're one of the leads. They're one of the leading community hosts. They host weekly tournaments and large monthly tournaments every week for Multiverses and Rocket League. I think they're the only ones really hosting weekly tournaments for Rocket League as well. But we are going to get a chance to sit down and talk with Mav. Everything to esports, business, and life in general. It's going to be kind of a neat little show. Different than what we probably talk about in a sense, which is fine. I mean, esports and motor racing doesn't happen every week all the time. So especially motor racing doesn't happen every week. Mm-hmm. And it'll be a good way to close out the year as well for 2024.
I know, but when racing does happen, it is special. It is special.
It is very true. So yeah, we'll have Mav to close out the year. We do have a guest for 2025. I haven't locked in the date yet, but we'll have another guest to open up our year as well. And I think we'll be back. You know what? I'll save that for next week's episode because we'll talk about that more. Chris and I still haven't met about when we're gonna come back for 2025. Hello, can I speak now?
2025 is going to be a big year.
Yeah,
I gotta listen. I gotta prep for the roar before the 24, prep for the 24, and then start prepping for the. I'm just going to use this episode to make the official announcement that I will be attempting to participate in the NASCAR Coca-Cola Pro Series and go through qualifiers, contenders. Hopefully get to contenders, but start in qualifiers, hopefully get to contenders, make the draft, and then the goal for me, come hell or high water, is to participate in the Pro Series for the NASCAR Series, the Coca-Cola Series.
And then you're also going to try that. You're also going to try the AMX tournaments, right?
Yes, I did register last night for AMX League, which is also a similar league that Max Verstappen is currently in. It is a league that you can race. There are prize pools, and some of their events are based on your rank. So if I continue my current trajectory with my rank, I'll be able to participate in the 2K IR races. So very excited about that too. So I have a big year, 2025 coming up, and I will definitely have more to talk about. I'll have way more to talk about racing in terms of sim racing, about what's been going on with me, because I'll be prepping for all these things. So I got a pretty full plate coming up, but my goal is and I do intend to do it. I'm going to go for that going for that NASCAR. I'm going for it. I decided to do it. I have the license for it. I'm going for it.
2024 has been an exciting year for us. A lot of things have happened for us in Amplify, and even like here at the podcast. Like our 8th episode is going to be the final episode of 2024. Which is crazy. We've done 8 episodes plus the pilot, which is 9, to start off this podcast. This was kind of cool. Like this was something that was kind of like almost a spur of the moment. And it's like, you know what, let's just do it. We're always talking and things like that. And so, it's been kind of fun to be able to just do that. And then, 2025, like just the way this year has started to end, the last, like, oh my gosh, 5 months, the things that have been happening for us and even for Amplify, like it's
ramped up.
Yeah, I don't think I
was this not on your bingo card?
It's on my bingo card where it's like I would love to be able to would love to see these things happen. I was just at the place where it's like, if it happens, it does, but not that I was expecting it, kind of thing.
I know you didn't see any of this happen for your 2024 bingo card, did you?
Nah. If anything, it's more humbling and kind of, like one of those thank you moments. Like I'm more grateful. So yeah, 2025 is gonna be a big year. We're gonna recap the year next week on the podcast. And as we talked to Mav as well. And then yeah, 2025 is right around the corner. Christmas is right around the corner. Almost here, guys. Santa's coming. Well,
hopefully he brings you wheels and pedals. Brings you your steering wheels and pedals for your sim racings.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, next week. Until next week, everybody. So thank you for staying with us, putting up with us for another episode. We hope you enjoyed listening to our passionate opinions and especially our opinions on that L take. Please, whoever watches this, don't send him any hate. Just it's an L take. If you want to watch his take and then formulate your own opinions, that is all in you. That is just our 2 cents on that opinion. But if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the Amplify's channel so that way you never miss an episode. Be sure to hit the bell for when we post an episode, and also hit that subscribe button, whether it be up here, down here, over there, or over there. Doesn't matter where. Hit that subscribe button to follow us, and follow us on social media where we discuss topics from this episode and many others as they happen. You can find our links to our individual socials in the description below. Feel free to challenge us, reach out to us, share your opinions, and all that good stuff. I mean, hey, listen, me and my 2s of followers on the X, hey, I welcome more. If you want to follow and debate me and be like, your takes suck, tell me why they suck.
True.
And then I'll say, thank you for your opinion. I'll be following this opinion with HR, which it will then be burned and thrown in the trash. And I appreciate your banter, though.
That means I'm HR. Oh, boy.
That's right. I'm going to be like, he said this mean thing to me. Now ban him.
All right, guys.
No, in all seriousness, though. But share your opinions with us and your thoughts. And next week, we will see you guys again.
Final episode next week. See y'all.
See ya. Whoa, yeah.